you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 38, the week of March 15th, 2024. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co-host, Mads Sassy. Mads, how are we doing?
We're doing pretty good. Beware the Ides of March.
Do beware of the Ides of March.
It's the best meme day of the year.
It is a good day for memes.
And if you're on Tumblr, it's an official holiday on Tumblr. Because of course it would be. Speaking of, I saw a post today where someone headcanoned that Aziraphale and Crowley had everything to do with Caesar being stabbed in the back. That Aziraphale wanted it to happen, but he was too nice to do it, so Crowley was the one that convinced all the Roman generals to do it. And I'm like, you know what? I accept this headcanon.
A minute in, we've already made it about good omens. It's good. We're off to a good start.
It's a TV podcast, might as well. It's the only thing I could find that would be even somewhat remotely relatable to Ides of March and television. Good Omens is always a good reference. Mm. I know you don't always agree, but that's fine.
I'll allow
it. You are allowed to like what you like, and I'm allowed to like what I like.
Indeed.
Indeed.
For the record, I don't dislike Good Omens. I feel like this podcast may have mischaracterized my feelings of this show.
Yes.
I do in fact like Good Omens.
No, I didn't think you don't. I'm just saying I like it astronomically more than you do.
That's fair. That's fair.
I write fan fiction for it. Do not confine me. I will not tell you my AO3. No. That is a secret only certain people are allowed to know. But let's just say I wrote 31 fics for Schitt's Creek, 20 for Shameless. Just started with Good Omens, so I've only got like 2 or 3. But yeah, I'm a very prolific fan fiction writer. Just never will tell you my name.
Well, this is a good place to jump off into our news segment. Talk about some stuff, but firstly, and relatedly is a word, I think. The gay Oscars for this week, GLAAD had its award ceremony,
Yes.
which is TV tangential. Had some. I was just perusing it before we came on. Before we jumped on here. What's some interesting results from that? So, as far as TV goes, Yellow Jackets won for Best Drama Series, and Ted Lasso won for Best Comedy. Yeah, I have thoughts about that.
I went into a whole tangent about it in my Discord. Yeah, I just...
I'll say this. Yellow Jackets, I'm very happy for.
Right. That one's perfect. That one's great.
Perfect. That's great. That's excellent.
Ted Lasso, it's like, they're like, oh, you won some Emmys, let's give you a pat on the back for doing the bare minimum.
Right. And they're much gayer and funnier comedies of last year.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to be that person, but like, obviously my Discord is centered on this show, so like we were obviously upset that the show didn't get it, but like Our Flag Means Death deserved something like that, considering the entire show is queer. Mm-hmm. And it's a comedy. Like,
even if it wasn't Our Flag Means Death. Like,
right.
even...
But that's just, like, an example of a show that
Yeah.
is 10 times better than Ted Lasso.
Yeah, even something like Sex Lives of College Girls.
Yeah.
Or virtually any other comedy that came out last year.
You're like, pretty much any other funny thing on television.
Yeah. But some other notable wins were Fellow Travelers for Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series, which I know you appreciated.
I did, indeed.
Yeah. RuPaul's Drag Race won for Outstanding Reality Competition Program, which has its fans. I'm not necessarily among them, but I'm very happy for other
would have
people
been
that love.
nominated for a GLAAD award in that category?
That's an excellent question. I mean,
maybe the ultimatum.
The ultimatum is right there.
I'm just like, wait, what else is there?
And
I will say this latest season of 90 Day Fiancé had a trans person on there. She was something.
But for non-TV stuff too, you had Bottoms winning for best comedy movie, I think.
I believe so, because didn't All of Us Strangers win for drama?
Let's see.
I feel like All of Us Strangers won something.
Okay, yeah, Bottoms won for wide theatrical release.
Oh, okay. And
Monica out of IFC film won for limited theatrical release. This is where things kind of fall off the rails a little bit. David Archuleta won for Outstanding Breakthrough Music Artist.
Who?
David Archuleta, famous or notable for winning American Idol, or I can't remember if he won American Idol, but he definitely ranked really high.
Yeah.
A very long time ago. So he is nowhere approaching a breakthrough artist. And to give him an award and not Chappelle Roan is insane. That's absurd. Like, truly fucking absurd. But Renee Rapp, who I just mentioned from her show, Sex Lives of College Girls, won for Outstanding Music Artist of the Year, which is very well deserved. And she gave a great acceptance speech, in her own particular way. Anyone who's ever watched Renee Rapp speak knows what I'm talking about. But also being, I think, the only person at the award ceremony who called for a ceasefire in Palestine, which is kind of huge given how early in her career she is and how phenomenally this could side rail her. But huge props to her.
I'm wondering if, going back to the David Archuleta thing, I'm wondering if it's because, like, he's finally, like, getting... One, he finally came out, and two, he's finally starting to get bigger recognition. Like, yes, he had his moment around the time that he did American Idol, but, like, then he kind of dropped off, and, like, no one really heard from him. Right. And, like, now he's starting to come back. So maybe that's what... I don't know.
Right, but the idea that he's a breakthrough artist is...
That's true. He's
ridiculous.
He's just been struggling for years. That's not... I don't know.
Like, he had a one hit wonder, like, years ago.
Right. I wonder... So, my friend who's a theater composer, like, he has kind of an issue with terminology kind of like that, because he's like, well, when is it considered that you've made it? Like, what is this drop-off point? Because he's like, he's been on lists for emerging composers before, and he's like, but I've been around for decades. Like, what are you talking about emerging? Like, what's your standard for emerging? So like, I don't know. It depends on what their standard is.
Right.
It's kind of like saying normal. You know what I mean? What is normal? Like, you have to give clear qualifiers for certain terminology for award shows that I'm just like, I don't know where you're getting your terminology from. Because, yeah,
Right.
he's been around for a while.
Yeah, and like I said, it's even more like ridiculous when like you consider that Chappelle Roan is a much bigger and like it's a bigger current name and really did break through this year. Like
Yeah.
and is like not even quietly explicitly queer.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to mention here was that Baldur's Gate 3 won for outstanding video game for that, which is a great game and again, super well deserved.
Awesome. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Great game.
Sounds wonderful. Never played a video game in my life. That's not true. I used to play Super Mario Brothers when I was little. It's about as far as my video game skills went.
Right.
But I'm happy for you gamers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's it's tangential to our podcast because it's a very D&D centered game.
Okay, that's valid.
I like that we spent all this time talking about GLAAD and have not, and probably will not mention the Oscars.
No, we don't want to talk about the Oscars because then I'll go on a rant that no one wants to listen to. So
Fair.
yeah, just leave it at that.
So look at that. Yeah.
Also, Oscars is only tangential to our podcast by like the slightest margin, so
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I will say one little thing about the Oscars, and that is Ryan Gosling knows how to ham it up. And I'm so excited that he's going to be hosting SNL again.
Right. Yeah.
He's such a good SNL host. Like, just let him do it all the time. Because the dude is so, like, loves to do comedy. You can just tell that that's his favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah. Yeah, so that's GLAAD. What else do we want to mention here?
Anything in news or noteworthy? I don't even know.
I don't even remember. Weeks are so long now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember what we're talking about. Yeah, I don't know.
I will say,
Right,
I do know that next week I will probably want to talk a little bit about the documentary that comes out this weekend about the dark side of kids television. It's the like expose on Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider.
Right.
I'm very intrigued. Anyways, more on that next week.
Yeah. Oh, there was one thing I wanted to mention. There was an article from Collider, I think today or yesterday, that was saying that Star Trek Legacy, which would be a spin-off / sequel series to the last season of Star Trek Picard, it's still a possibility as long as fans continue to be noisy. To which I'll say, if Star Trek fans know how to do anything in this world, it is to be loud and annoying. So,
Yeah.
done and done, sir.
Especially if you want to like just put some like innocuous statement out on the internet about about how it's getting too woke or some bullshit like that, and then the fans will get really, really loud.
Get really loud. Yeah. add to that a show with like 7 of 9 and her Captain 7 of 9 and her first officer girlfriend. Yeah, no, we'll get very, very annoying about that.
You're very annoying.
You won't believe how annoying.
I need to start watching Discovery because I was on Paramount Plus today watching something else, and I saw an ad for the new season that starts April 4th. Yes. And I was like, oh, I need to start watching this. Like, I really just need to start watching this.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if I manage to get to it before the new season.
Yeah, I really do adore that show.
Oh, I know I will, because I love Anthony Rapp like nobody's business.
Oh yeah.
So I know.
And the second season is so easy to watch, like especially like post Strange New Worlds. Where like Discovery was like the jumping off point for that show. And like reintroduce us to like that Spock and that Pike. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good, like in retrospect.
I've been watching the original series at night, like letting it just play in the background, and it's so funny to like hear them talk about Spock and Pike, and I'm just like looking. I know, obviously Nimoy, but like I always forget what Pike from the original series looked like until like I turn it on and watch it, because like in my brain forever is the Strange New Worlds version of Pike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I like that version better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like there was, I don't know, I woke up to one episode where I guess Pike's consciousness was there, but like his body was dying. I don't really know. It was halfway through the episode and I'd slept through most of it. But I was just like, this is weird. It's Star Trek. I don't care. Like, that's literally my thought process with the original series is, this is weird. Oh, well, it's Star Trek.
It's Star Trek, yeah.
But it's a very soothing show to fall asleep to. Like, I will say that.
Yeah. Gene Roddenberry was really on one with like the original series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was just like, how deeply weird and cheap can I just get?
Yeah, there was one that I was watching the other night, and this guy comes to Kirk and he's like, listen, you know that guy that we fought and we thought he was dead? He's not actually dead. And Kirk's like, I don't know about this. And it ends up being that like these players that they brought onto their planet are actually him. One of them's him in disguise. The guy that they thought was dead is in disguise. And I'm just like, this is the weirdest twist of events. Like, what?
Yep.
And then I'm just like, you know what? They're in space. It all makes sense. It's fine.
Who cares?
But I was just like, you know, the writing for this though was very like ahead of its time for the years that show aired.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, we can go into a deep dive on Star Trek another time.
Well, speaking of Star Trek, there was another news item that said that the end of Star Trek Discovery would mark the first show in many decades that would not end with Jonathan Frakes being in the last episode. Which, if you watch Star Trek Enterprise, that might be a good thing.
Well, no, it'd be hilarious if they say that and then like he just pops up randomly at the end of the episode. He's like, hello guys. I know I don't belong here, but it's Star Trek. Because Jonathan Frakes would do that. He'd be like, you know what? I think I'll pop up in this episode. He'd be calling them. He'd be like, listen, do you guys need me? Because I'd do it.
Yes.
We love Jonathan Frakes. He's hilarious.
Jonathan Frakes is always game for, I'm pretty sure, anything in the entire world.
Absolutely. He's down for anything. To that end, so is Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner would do just about anything, too. He loves Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, especially with, like, Star Trek Picard, where he was just like, can I just keep coming back as different Soongs?
And they're like, sure, why not?
It's just like, what if there were like 50 Soongs? Can I just keep doing that?
We should just give him his own show. Just be like, here, you're a one-man show. Just have at it. Do whatever you want. No rules. You just make it up as you go.
Oh, that did remind me, since we're talking about Star Trek Picard. There was, I don't mean this to become a Star Trek segment, but there was a piece that came out about Star Trek Picard in the past week that was saying that there was a plan for the second season of Picard, and due to a lot of backstage finagling from the network and producers and whatnot, a lot of like what they had planned for that season ended up not happening at all, and it was basically rewritten on the fly and sabotaged at every level, pretty much. And as someone who watched that second season, yeah, it shows. It's not a good season of television at all. It is not cohesive in any way, shape, or form, and it is fully a mess.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised that most of that season was changed due to just a lack of faith in like the actual direction and writing for that show.
Yeah.
It's always weird when like the actual like network people do everything they can to like hamstring Star Trek. Because you had it in the 90s with Rick Berman, and we're still dealing with the side effects of that. Weird. Just, I don't know. Just let Star Trek be. It's so easy. Like, just let it do its thing.
Yeah.
But anyway. That's all the news I got.
Yeah, I didn't really see much in the way of news this week.
Yeah.
Except that I actually, that's not true. I saw today that they cast hold on. First, this is another Suits LA casting. Not that I'm going to watch, but I'm slightly intrigued by this casting because I do kind of enjoy him in the various things I've seen him over the years. Brian Greenberg has been also slotted to join the cast of Suits LA, which I find very interesting. I was obsessed with him on One Tree Hill. He played one of my favorite characters on that show, and he's done a few, movies here, TV movies here and there, TV cameos here and there over the years. But I saw that and I was like, huh. Him and Amel, though, not sure about what that kind of dynamic's gonna be like. I mean, he said he's excited on his Instagram post about it, but you know, actors don't ever lie on Instagram.
No.
I don't know. To be fair, he's probably pretty chill with Amel. I mean, he seems like the kind of dude that would be. But interesting casting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've seen him in anything since. I think he was in Sarah Connor Chronicles. If I'm remembering that correct.
I know he's got this film either coming out or it just came out on Apple TV called Junction, which like deals with the opioid crisis and stuff. And like I was intrigued to watch it. But I'm trying to think of other stuff that you know what he did? Hold, please. It was a very short-lived show. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm thinking of thinking of the imagery of the TV posters for it. I just can't remember what the show was called.
Oh, never mind. I was thinking of Brian Austin.
October Road. October Road.
Oh, what? I did. You know what? I watched October Road.
It was a time.
No, I was thinking of Brian Austin Green from 90210. So.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, no.
A fully different person.
Totally different person. But he was also in that movie, The Perfect Score, about the kids that steal the SAT. That came out in like the early 2000s. Like it.
Right.
I don't know why, but I was weirdly obsessed with that movie for a little while. More recently, he was in some episodes of the Mindy Project. Like I said, he does little like cameo spots on shows.
Right.
And then like does like little roles in bigger movies. But yeah. His biggest thing was One Tree Hill. Let's be real.
Right.
But yeah,
which is the case for a lot of people from One Tree Hill.
I think the only one that made it like really super big was Sophia Bush.
And yeah, I was just thinking about Sophia Bush.
As she should. I mean, Chad Michael Murray kind of, but people started hating him after a while. So like, does it matter? No. But yeah, Sophia Bush is the only like big breakout star from that show, and it's what she deserves. Anyways.
Yeah. Hillary Burton was kind of steadily working for a while there, but
now she's married to Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and she wrote a book, and she kind of just does her own thing on their farm. And she does her podcast. That's right. She does the podcast with Bethany Joy and Sophia. Does Sophia do it with them? I think so.
I don't know.
Where they rewatch One Tree Hill and talk about it. You know, like a lot of actors do these days.
Yeah.
I will say the Boy Meets World one is actually a lot of fun to listen to.
I don't think
We're gonna.
I avoid all these podcasts like the actual plague.
I avoid 98% of them. I literally only listen to Boy Meets World. I know about the One Tree Hill one because I've heard clips of it, you know, on various social media sites, but I have never sat down and listened to an entire episode because I don't care. I'm like, I like One Tree Hill with my own opinions. I don't need to hear background stuff from them. Right. I love them, but like we all know what went on behind the scenes on that show. Like it's well documented.
Yeah, I've heard it's a nightmare. Like I've heard the podcast is a nightmare.
I'm just like, I don't like Hillary Burton enough to sit through however long each episode is of her talking. If it was Sophia Bush, yes, I'd sit and listen to her talk all the time, but not about One Tree Hill. But yeah, the Boy Meets World one I love because I like going back and watching these episodes that I haven't seen since I was younger and like reliving it with these guys that are now, my age, obviously. And it's like, it's so crazy because I'm like, we were kids at the same, like around the same time. Like,
yeah.
Like, I enjoy listening to them talk about it because it's like, okay, they learned a lot on that set. Like, I get it. That's cool. I don't know much about that show outside of watching it as a kid. Like, but some of these other ones, I'm like, I don't care. Like, why are we doing this? Like, there's one for the OC, and I'm like, why?
Yeah. No.
Anyways.
I'm good.
Don't listen to rewatch podcasts.
From
the actors. From the actors. Don't listen to them from the actors. You can listen to them if it's like fans, because that's a mixed bag on whether it's going to be funny or not. But the actors, it's probably boring as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move out of news here. If anyone sees Kate Middleton on The Masked Singer, let us know. But until then,
dude, if that theory's correct, I will laugh my ass off.
We are not here to hash out conspiracy theories, everyone.
We are not, but I'm just saying, since you brought it up, if that is the theory that ends up being true, I will laugh my ass off.
We are moving on into the GOAT. So the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them against each other on a poll on Twitter. Last week, I nominated the X-Files Season 1, Episode 8, titled Ice. And Mads nominated Degrassi, The Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 11, Rock This Town.
Yes.
Part of that might be wrong. I don't know. I'm not going to go check.
No, you're correct.
Okay, cool. Cool. Good job, Drew. So pretty and smart. So.
Anyway, sorry. I should not have laughed at that. I'm sorry.
No, I mean it was a joke. It was designed to be laughed at. So.
Anyways.
So you lost the poll last week, so you get to go first with your pick of the GOAT.
All right. So this week, ABC came back with some big heavy hitters. And one of those big heavy hitters is a transplant from Fox called 911. Okay. I gave up on the show as a avid fan around season 5-ish, like probably early season 5, and season 7 is the begin. Came this week. Wow, I can't talk. I actually tuned in because I was curious to see if things were going to be a little different with ABC, new network, some new writers, whatever. And it got me thinking how much I love the character Bobby Nash. He's played by Peter Krause, and he's such the glue of this show. I have seen every episode of this show despite not being an avid fan past season 5 because I still wanted to watch him. Like, I wanted to see his character grow and develop, and I think it's just he's had a great arc so far over the 7 seasons. You know, we first meet him in season 1 and we think he's this very put together captain of their crew. He's the dad, basically. Everyone looks to him for advice and to know the right thing to say and do in a crazy situation. And then we find out he's a recovering alcoholic. And he had a drug addiction at one point. So, like, we find out that he's actually not as put together as we thought. And so, like, seeing him grow and evolve over the years and fall in love with Athena, played by Angela Bassett, has just been such a fun journey. And he's one of those rock steady characters that every show needs, despite having his troubles. Like, you know, he's that person that's going to make sure that not everything falls apart. And when he is falling apart, it's his example that allows the others to kind of build him up. So this week I'm nominating Bobby Nash from 911.
Nice. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, actually, that, like, it's kind of crazy that, in, like, the same way with, like, as, like, David Boreanaz, that Peter Krause has been consistently on TV, like, every year since, like, Sports Night in 1999. Like,
listen, dude keeps getting hired.
He keeps getting hired. Literally, I think he has worked every year for the last 25 years.
That sounds right, because he had 911, and before that, Parenthood. Before that,
Yeah,
6
like,
Feet Under.
Yeah, like, he went Sports Night, 6 Feet Under, the Sex Lies, whatever show.
Yep.
Parenthood and 911. So it's like, the man has always worked.
Listen, here's the thing. Whenever they do those DILF polls, he is always on it.
Mm-hmm.
He's always on it. So there's a reason he keeps getting hired.
Yeah.
People like to look at him.
Yep. Sports Night, another show that I might nominate one day, because I deeply love that show. So for my pick this week, I noticed that this is the I believe 15th anniversary since the end of Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm.
Since it ended in this upcoming week. I was thinking a little bit about that, and I was just what a powerhouse show. But you know, as I do, I'm thinking, like, encompassing, like, what stands out to me about the show. And I considered the miniseries, but, like, that felt like cheating a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Feels cheating to nominate a 3-hour miniseries that everyone acknowledges universally is great. But so in lieu of that,
I mean, I deserve to lose a few times.
There's just something about nominating a miniseries that feels like cheating. But so in lieu of that, I'm going to nominate the first official episode of Battlestar Galactica, Season 1, Episode 1, entitled 33, which is just one of the tensest episodes that I think I've ever watched. 33, an episode where the crew of the Battlestar Galactica continuously is being bombarded by the enemy Cylons, as the episode title indicates, every 33 minutes, on just a continuous bombardment they get attacked, they have to move, they get attacked again 33 minutes later, they have to move. And just that over the course of like that entire first episode, and just the way that both like the Cylons don't let up and the episode doesn't let you up from that. And then just like watching the character dynamics just like deteriorate over the course of that episode, and just there's something remarkable about just like letting your characters be in a pressure cooker for like an entire episode, and just kind of not back down from that. And also like navigating like the weird ways of like, how do you survive in a reality like this? And the answer is and how do you find answers to like what would otherwise be like simple problems but you can't focus.
Right.
So like it is like, I think, one of the best official unofficial starts to a show. Like just so good. So that is my pick. Battlestar Galactica season 1 episode 133.
Nice. Never seen it. There's quite a few sci-fi shows I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Not many, but there are a few.
I love Battlestar. Just what a moment in time it was where we had like Lost and Battlestar. Like,
people will never know.
it is really hard.
Today's kids will never understand.
Like, that is a joke, but also it is hard to describe just like how insane that is. Like,
no, I meant it seriously. Like,
no,
I know it could be seen as a joke, but I meant it seriously.
Yeah. Like, just what a what a strong cultural moment that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly it was heaven for the most unhinged people. For the most deranged people out there, it was amazing. So those are our picks for the GOAT this week. You can find the poll up on our Twitter page, and you'll have 2 days to vote once the poll goes live. Be sure to like and share it on whatever social platform you're currently using. And be sure to send us in your own GOAT submissions at noneothertvpodcast@gmail.com, along with anything else you want to send us. So, without anything else, let's move on into the main part of our show. To kick off our lineup this week, we're continuing with Adventure Time into the 7th season with episodes 14 and 15, The More You Mow and The More You Know, episode 19, Blank-Eyed Girl, and also episode 21, A King's Ransom. So let's start off with our two-parter here. The More You Mow and the Mo You Know. A very BMO-centric two-parter. We love BMO.
I love BMO. He's so amazing.
Yeah, BMO is great. So what do we think of this two-part?
It was an adventure. I wasn't quite sure where it was going from the beginning, because I was just like, okay, that's cool. Like, little old dude became a robot. Like, that makes sense, I guess. And he's like, you're gonna go on a mission. And I'm like, okay, it's a little sus that he won't let him bring Finn and Jake, but like, whatever. This show's been weird before. Like, it's not necessarily mean a bad thing. But yeah, like, it was cute. It was fun because BMO is just adorable.
Right.
But weird robot. Weird. Amo is a weird robot.
Yeah. Well, I love Amo just in like in the very tropey way of like, what if our beloved character had like a dark opposite?
Yes.
which is like Amo to a T, a character who does not know how to have fun and is not programmed that way. Will never know how to have fun. So I mean, Amo's such a shit. Like, you're just the worst person you know. Like,
Yeah.
I love him, and also I hate him so very dearly. And also, the who I do have a question for Mo of why he would install a cannon to the top of Amo's head.
Yeah.
Why did you give him a dark matter cannon?
Because why not?
Why not? Yeah. Well, and it also brings up the question of like, what was Amo's purpose? You know, like if he is a robot that was not designed to love, you know, and is only like supposed to give love, but also he has a fucking cannon on his head. Like, what was the idea with Amo? And I know a lot of like the other robots in like Moe's factory don't have like an explicit purpose. You know, they're all just kind of vibing for the most part. But Amo seems like he had a thing. You know, he seems like an experiment that Mo did that just didn't really work out. So I am curious, like, what the actual motivation was behind Amo.
Yeah.
Um,
But also I found it was very interesting to see the big block that's just all the other Moes.
yes, yeah.
Those poor Moes. Like, because it literally makes you think of like the trash compactor machines that make trash into a cube. Like, that's literally what happened to them. And I'm like, those poor Moes.
Yeah, and it does lessen this thing a little bit that like they're all just kind of one collective now. Like that,
Yeah.
I think like the idea for the modes was for them to be like this harmonious collective in the first place, and now they are like the very personification of that idea.
Mm-hmm.
So like that is nice to a certain extent. I mean, obviously we would want the modes to actually be, you know, the 1,000 different modes that existed, but this is still good. Um, but I did enjoy BMO on like his journey.
Oh my god, he was so effing real when he was like, maybe being grown up means you're not really aware if something's going good or going bad. And I'm like, don't even start with me, BMO. Don't even start.
Right.
Like, it was
Well,
so, like, I'm in this photo and I don't like it.
right, yeah. Well, like, there's a lot of stuff from BMO that is like very very explicitly stating like some of the themes of like Adventure Time of like you know, maybe you grow and like you just don't realize, like you get to the end and you go, oh, I've grown. Um, you know, and a lot of stuff like that from BMO. Like I love the like the fantasy he has of like growing up and like driving in a car and like shopping at a grocery store. It's like these very like mundane adult things to do.
Right.
And not being able to like connect with Finn and Jake anymore. It's
And I love that, like, he imagined Finn and Jake as these, like, Picasso-y type art forms. And I'm like, that kind of just showed the whole concept of, well, maybe when I get older, they change so much that I don't recognize them. And it's like, that's so real, though. Like,
yeah.
it's so real that, like, you know, the people you were friends with when you were young, not necessarily your friends when you're older.
Yeah. but there were a lot of like fun lines from BMO. This like there's one moment where BMO's talking to the block of Moes, and he's like, "Today's my birthday. Happy birthday, BMO." And it's just so like there's something so delightful about the way that BMO delivers lines.
Yes.
Like, which kind of goes to like the point of these episodes of like the kind of like cheerful innocence that BMO has.
So to that end, also like going back to like him talking about like going shopping, and he's like he says I could buy binkies for myself. And it's like, bro, do you not realize that when you get older you don't need a binky? Okay. Glad we've established that.
Because
It
you're
was very just the childlike innocence of it was just so cute. And I was just like, oh, you precious little BMO, pat you on the head. Like
mm, yeah.
I love that little guy.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, BMO's so great. I did love the moment where they're BMO's talking to the Mo block, and they're trying to get out of the hole, and the Mo block's like, we can't get out of here. We can't figure it out, but we need like your imagination. And BMO just like picks up like two blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the block's like, that's not gonna work. And BMO just like has like this delightful look on his face as he just like connects them together, and the Mo block's like, you blow my mind. That's fucking amazing. And it's such a great moment, and really like emphasizes like, you know, as I was saying with like the purpose of AMO, like the purpose of BMO is to like be fun and have an imagination and be creative, you know, and find like really like delightful solutions for things. Yeah, I love that. I also loved Finn and Jake trying to hang out with who they think is Mo.
With Grandpa.
With
Grandpa. And they're like, and them trying to play hangman and not understanding the rules. Like, oh my god, like he's literally like, I'm like, bro, pick a letter. He literally tells you to pick a letter and you spout off a whole phrase. And it's like, no, that's not what we're doing here.
No, I do love that line. I'm like, show us what you did, hangman.
And they're like, you lose. That is not correct. You lose.
That's not correct. But also the answer being Burgess Meredith twice. Which is just such a great, like, old person answer. But also like Jake being like too freaked out by old people to hang out with Mo.
Yeah.
I love Finn's rebuttal of like, we hang out with Princess Bubblegum, and like this acknowledgement that like, yeah, Princess Bubblegum's old. Like Princess Bubblegum's old. Like I don't think the show ever really addresses this, but like it is so funny that Finn and Jake's best friends are beings that are hundreds of years old.
Yeah. Because if you think about Marceline's really old, Bubblegum's really old, the Ice King is really old.
Peppermint Butler's probably pretty old.
He's probably old as dirt. Like,
yeah. All like most of the people that they hang out with are. It would be like a teenager hanging out with like boomers. Like.
Yeah.
It never is not funny to me.
It's one of those things you just don't think about until they put it right in front of your face, like in moments like this, where they're like, they're, you know, complaining about Grandpa being old, but then they're like, Princess Bubblegum is old, and you like hanging out with her, and it's like, yeah, but it's different. Like,
It's different.
she's fun. Which is so valid, because some experiences with old people are boring as fuck, and some of them are fun and exciting. Like, it just depends on the old person.
Yeah.
Like, I loved my grandfather to the ends of the earth. He was a very boring person, though, because he would sit and watch sports or John Wayne films or talk about sports, or coins. And I'm like, you're a nice guy. You're very loving. You're my grandfather. You're a wonderful person. You are just not someone I would play games with or like tell jokes to or whatever. Like, you're not
Oh yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah. Well, it's like I have regulars at work where it's that are older,
Mhm.
older, and it's like I could talk to this person for an hour, and there are other customers where I'm like, if you don't leave right now, I think I will actually die.
Like, you need to have left 10 minutes ago. But I've only been here 2 minutes. Exactly.
I desperately need you to leave.
Yeah. So this is a nice, I that's what I really love about Adventure Time, is that like it explores these very real themes and very real experiences that no matter how old you are, you understand them.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And how old you are determines how you understand them.
Mm. Well, let's move on to the next episode, Blank Eyed Girl, which is, I mean, Finn can dispute this fact from the end of the episode, but like, what a creepy episode.
Yeah. It made me actually, it very much made me think of this one episode of Supernatural, um where they were trying to get rid of this ghost, and they came to realize that he was existing because people on the internet made him into create him into existence. And I'm like, this is the exact thing that happened on Supernatural. I was like, but this is so much creepier. Because at least with Supernatural, it was a comedic episode because they had to deal with these amateur ghost hunters called ghost facers, and they were terrible and ridiculous. But like this episode, it was just creepy creeperson. Like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. One fun thing about this episode is how deeply not into any of this Jake is, especially like the Starchy's conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
um, I heard someone say this when the episode first came out, but like Jake would literally not be able to be in the same room as Fox Mulder. It would just be an hour of Jake just being just yelling nonsense at him. Just yelling baloney and furiously walking away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love how Jake progressively over the course of this episode just is not about any of this. Does not
Right.
want to be involved. Would
Mm-hmm.
like to unsubscribe from this entirely. Like every single part of this.
Absolutely.
Uh, but
It's
yeah, like I like the progression of like how creepy, like starts out normal, almost normal. One creepy girl, got it, and then it just keeps escalating.
yeah.
And I
No,
like
he's
I
like
like
he's
the
like
progression.
play the clarinet. It'll maybe she won't like that. No, now there's 6 of them. Like, what?
Right, right.
Also, why the clarinet? Like,
What?
nobody, I guess maybe because nobody likes the clarinet. Like, I played clarinet all through high school. I can attest, I hated the clarinet.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but like that moment of Jake turning around and the blank eye girl is inside his house. What a good jump scare! Like just like because there is like that innate sense of you of like I feel like ever since I was a kid I expect like whenever I look out the window at night to see something there, you know. But
Yeah.
like there's a huge difference between like there's a part of your mind where it's like there could be something out there. There's absolutely not going to be anything inside the house, you know.
Oh yes. I
Where like we have like that imagined sense of like barrier. Um,
Yeah, it happens to me anytime Karen like convinces me we should watch a horror film late at night. And then I like we turn off the movie and we go to bed and like it's dark and normally every little noise I know exactly what it is because I'm like this is my house. But after a scary movie, I'm like the fuck is that? Is there a ghost? Is there a demon haunting us? Like it's that thing that your brain is in high alert because you just watched something that's very terrifying, even though it was not real, and then it starts making things that are sounds that are real seem supernatural in nature.
yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're like, the dog just sniffled. Oh no, that was not a dog. That was something else. Though I will say, having a 6-year-old in your house sometimes you wake up to very terrifying things.
Oh
Like for example, I was babysitting her last night because Karen was out of town and I had put her to bed. She was fast asleep. I went into my own room. I left the door open a crack, whatever. I'm like dead asleep. And then like my brain wakes me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and she's just standing right next to my bed.
yeah.
She's like, Riri, um, it's time to get up yet? No, go back to bed. What are you doing? It's just like I did not need to be alerted to a child just standing in the dark in my room waiting for me to wake up. That is terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
She's the blank eyed girl. No, I'm just kidding.
but like that moment of like the first blank eyed girl being in his house, like there's something about that. It's like, oh, this is a violation.
Yeah.
That like you shouldn't be in here. You shouldn't be in here. Like there's some like law of nature that you're violating right now.
How are you here? Like, I
How are
did
you
not
here?
put
Why
you
are you
in.
here? Yeah. Well, and also just like the calmness of it, the
Yes.
sereneness of just like the girl just like blandly standing there,
Yeah.
not doing anything, not being threatening, just
She's just
standing
standing
there.
there serenely.
Yeah. Like there's something so much worse about that than something like making a loud noise or like charging at you or something.
Yes.
The thing of like
I'm telling you, a child standing there quietly is oddly unnerving.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like it's the potential of action, right?
Yes.
It's like you could be doing something and you could a minute from now do something, but I don't know what that is until you actually do it, and that is so much worse than like you actually doing something. Yeah, but like I said, like the progression of like of that of um there being like 6 blank eye girls, and then just they're so entirely unfazed by Finn and Jake. Um, to the extent that like they don't even seem to be bothered by Finn and Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is our house now. We live here. Um, and then just like continuing on through the entire episode, and like the the end twist. Um, where it's like, oh, we have crossed the valley. We have seen things that I don't know how to describe. Yeah, it did feel like classic Adventure Time to me, like early seasons Adventure Time, where it's like, oh, and now we just see something fucking weird. It's just something weird that we have no explanation for. Yeah, a delightful episode, and one that is trying its hand at horror. Oh, yeah. Every time I'm like, I don't like it. It's great, but I don't like it. Well, let's carry on to our last episode, which is episode 21, A King's Ransom. Brings the Ice King back into the fold.
Yes, and Gunther.
And Betty. One thing I do think about with this episode is, was there someone at Adventure Time that was like, so how do we get away with not paying Lena Dunham this episode? Even though I know that she comes back fairly soon, like her actual voice comes back very soon, there is still that bit of like, the garbled voice is such a choice, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the distorted voice is such a choice, like, on a writing level. I'm like, why exactly did we do that?
Yeah.
Like I said, Lena Dunham comes back fairly soon.
It's easier for me to pretend that Lena Dunham isn't involved because it's just her voice, and I could just pretend, nope, that's not her voice.
Right. But again, this is another delightful episode of Ice King chicanery. Like, like I love the moment where Ice King is talking about all the time that he's spent with Gunther. It's like, here's him on his first birthday, his 5th birthday, his 50th birthday, his 100th birthday. And it is like a good example of like how kind of stupid and insane the Ice King is. That like this is not tracking for him.
It especially shows up when like he goes and puts on the crown again at the end. It's like, bro, you never mind. Never mind. You don't understand what's going on, do you? Because even Gunther kind of just looks at him like, really? Because he's like, oh, let me put the crown on, and then he's like, something feels different, and we're just like, oh, okay, bro. And he goes, come on, Gunther, let's go home. And it's just like, okay, just another day for the Ice King.
Yeah. Something I clocked this episode that I never really paid attention to before was the appearance of Orgelorg in Betty's instruments.
Yeah.
When she's like peeking into Gunther through like some like weird magnifying glass or something.
Yeah.
I never really clocked that before, but like I thought that was an interesting like. Oh, we haven't forgotten about that. It hasn't been brought up yet this season, but we haven't forgotten about like the Orgelorg of it all. we still know. Yeah, we know. But yeah, seems like Betty's up to some scheme. some something, you know. Who knows? Big things was a crime happening, apparently. Anything else we want to say about these episodes?
Not really. Just that it was nice to get to see the Ice King. I really like him in all his insanity, stupidity, glory.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it all.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So next week, we're gonna be pretty close to. Oh, we're practically gonna be done with the seventh season already.
Oh man, it went so fast.
Went so fast. With episode 23 crossover, episode 24 the Hall of Egress, and episode 25 flute spell. So
yeah,
big stuff happening. We're steadily getting closer to the end. Ever so slowly. So let's move on to our first actual show of the week, which is Shogun, which is now streaming, airing on FX and FX on Hulu, whatever that continues to mean. So there are 4 episodes out currently. I have watched the first episode. I know you, Mads, have also watched.
I've only watched the first. Yeah.
So what do you think of Shogun?
So I I had to attempt to watch the first episode a couple different times because yes, I understood it took place in Japan, but like my brain was not registering that, oh, this means you'll need to read subtitles. So like I'd start to watch it while working on something and I'd be like, what did he say? I didn't understand any of that. And then I'd be like, oh right, I need to start this over because I have to read. So then I put it aside because I was like, I can't do it while I'm working. I enjoyed myself though. Like once I did start watching, I was very intrigued. You know, I was like, okay, who are all these characters? Like who are all the players on the board? How do they relate to each other? And I was very interested to figure out the culture going on with these certain groups within Japan. Because like there was that scene where the one woman has a baby and like the other woman says, you know, she should be the last person that holds her child. And I'm like, are you going to sacrifice this child? What is going on here? And it's just, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I'm the end of that first episode where the English merchant, you know, ends up in Osaka. I want to know what his purpose is, like what he's going to do in the grand scheme of the story, because it's definitely setting some stuff up. Obviously, I mean, we've got to have some kind of action going on, and I'm just intrigued to see how he plays a part in the storyline with the heir and these 5 men that are like destined to rule in the stead of the heir until he grows up. So I don't know. What do you think?
I like it a lot. I think it's really kind of exceptional. I think it's the closest to like Game of Thrones that we've gotten since the show went off the air. So Shogun is based off a novel, and there was also a mini series, I believe, in the '80s that adapted that book. And this is kind of the second shot at it. Yeah, and it is kind of just exceptional throughout. I love all the players. It does to go back to my point, like it really does feel like Game of Thrones, where I'm watching a lot of people being introduced. I don't fully understand the relation to each other. I'm not fully able to discern one person from another. I have geography that I don't fully. I have locations that I don't fully understand the geography of, and I'm fucking living right now.
Yeah,
it's all great. Yeah, and a weird standout for me is the Englishman, who's just looks like he went like runner up in a Tom Hardy lookalike contest.
yep. I actually thought it was Tom Hardy for a hot second, and I was like, no, he's too tiny. He's not big enough to be Tom Hardy, but like he looks like Tom Hardy.
It's not just that he looks like Tom Hardy; he talks like Tom Hardy.
Well, that too, yes.
Like,
but initially, I'm just looking at him. Like I wasn't listening to him. I was just like looking at him. I'm like, you kind of look like Tom Hardy, but you're not big enough to be Tom Hardy. And to what you say, like, yeah, and he kind of talks in the same way that Tom Hardy talks as well.
Yeah, like the voice, the like speech patterns, the diction, like the way he delivers lines, like the kind of grandiose British way he talks. That's also like distinctly working class. Like it's so good.
It's so well done, and like I said, it's very compelling. Like I want to know more. Like I'm sat. It was over 45 minutes, which you and I've discussed many times about how some shows it's okay to have them be longer, sometimes it's not. But like again, this show probably could have been okay with 45 minutes, but like I didn't care that it was longer than that because I enjoyed it. And I didn't really like think about the length of time it was taking. Like there's so many unique characters in this episode that you're bouncing around, but you don't feel like you're bouncing around. You feel like you're going through the motions of just everyday life, with these people. Like it just, I'm very, very interested. I don't know the characters' names yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. But the one that's talking to the elderly woman, and she's talking about his legacy and his family's birthright of being shogun, and he's like, I don't want to do that, and I'm like, oh, but he's going to. Like in my brain, I'm like, he's gonna end up doing it. He's gonna end up doing it. Because it's always the reluctant one that ends up having to do it.
Yeah.
But and that shows that it's great storytelling, because you're like, you can automatically pick out, okay, this character's reluctant, but like you can see in his eyes that he's gonna eventually do it. You can tell in his mannerism that he understands that it's part of his legacy, that there's a need for it coming up soon, because there is something on the horizon that's going to need a shogun for it. He understands, and you won't be able to tell that just from the dialogue. You have to be able to see it from the mannerisms and the visuals, and the show does all of that, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, I'm ready to watch more. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And one final thing, I tweeted this earlier this week, but I have laughed at nothing more this year than the Englishman going, "Sorry, your piece of shit lord died."
Yes, that was. Also, as we talked about off mic, that the Spaniard is played by Hector. I forget his last name already. But
Nestor Carbonell.
yeah, Nestor Carbonell. There, thank you. I said the wrong first name too. I knew there was an E in there and an at the end, so like I was just like, anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm sorry, I ruined your name completely, sir. Like he's in everything, and so like when he shows up as the Spaniard, even with all that facial hair, I was just like, I clocked him. I knew it, And we talked about this. It's like it's because his eyes look like he has guy liner on all the time.
All the time, yeah. Like that is a character feat, as a character feature. And like he's also just doing his episode of Lost Abaterno. Like that's just I know that voice. I know that voice.
Right. The other thing that we didn't talk about this yet, but like the other thing I found very, very interesting was the uncle that shows up in the village because they hear about this ship, and like he had wanted to keep it a secret because they were using it as leverage to kind of get what is owed to them. And like the fact that he ends up sacrificing himself to help save this Spaniard, even though the Spaniard is a total dick. Like, it's just so interesting, the mental dynamics of Japanese culture. That, like any sort of weakness or fondness for someone that you shouldn't be showing emotion for, like, it's more honorable to not survive something like that than it would be to survive something like that. Like, I'm learning a lot just watching this.
Right. Well, like, to go back to Game of Thrones, like, it is an interesting, like, counterpoint where it's like a lot of the moves that happened on Game of Thrones were done out of like things that like this show and Japanese like this kind of Japanese culture at large would consider dishonorable.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is a show where like you're not gonna have like the big moves. You're not gonna have the moves of like Cersei killing all of Ned's men in one fell swoop and Littlefinger betraying him. You're not gonna get moves like
Mm-hmm.
that. So it's a show of like how are we going to have fully dynamic scenes and turns and twists like that without being able to resort to things like that, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, me too. But
so
it'll be interesting it'll be interesting to continue watching.
Yep. So let's move on to our next show, which is Elsbeth, which now tell me, was this a CBS show or is this a Paramount Plus show? I think it's a CBS show.
It's a CBS show.
I watched it on Paramount Plus, but I wasn't sure.
I watched it on Paramount Plus as well.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a CBS proper show because for the last few years, The Good Fight and Evil have been Paramount Plus.
Yep.
Which are the other King shows. Robert and Michelle King.
Which Elsbeth is a character from The Good Fight, right?
Elsbeth is a character from The Good Wife.
Oh, Good Wife. Okay, I knew it was one of
but
the
also
series.
But also appeared in The Good Fight.
Okay. That's what I had heard. I haven't seen either show, so I didn't know for sure. So
right. I was a little wary of Elsbeth, and a lot of this awareness came through while I was actually watching it. Of it's a thing of you have a secondary character who is so fun to be with and so much fun like in these moments where like they just come in and they kind of blow blow the
Float
doors
in
off
and out, yeah.
float in and out, and they're just weird for like a second, and then they go fully utility players. um and there's always that danger of like bringing them in and really centering on that kind of character,
Yep.
And losing like some of the essence or overplaying that character, and realizing that they only really work in like that small burst. So I was worried about that with Elsbeth, and I should note I only made it not because I didn't like it, but because I didn't have time. I only made it about halfway through the episode, maybe a little longer, and I'm not fully dissuaded from that. I should say.
I think it kind of works. I mean, granted, like I said, I don't really know her in the other capacities. But like, I felt watching this episode that, her quirkiness adds something to the investigation going on. And it's nice to see her kind of clash with some of the cops, but not with all of them. Like there are a couple cops that she's dealing with that are like accept her who she is and eventually like actually help her do what she's doing. And then there are like the higher up cops and the main detective that are like, get her the fuck away from me. I don't like her. She's in my way. She's annoying. And it's nice to have that dichotomy because you need that kind of stuff with a character like her. And so I think right now it works, but it's only been one episode. And we're not going to get any more episodes, I think, until beginning of April or something like that.
Okay.
But it's just, it's interesting. And I'm intrigued enough to watch another episode. But like you said, like, it could easily become tiresome really fast. I guess it just depends.
Yeah. There's a part of this where like she kind of feels like Columbo, but she's too weird for other people to let her have the one more thing bit. So like she's too weird, and people like cut her off before she's able to get to like the one more thing part, which is entertaining, in and of itself. And I did like that the Chicago lawyers are basically pawning them off on pawning Elsbeth off on New York because again she's weird.
I did like the little bit throughout the episode of her just every person they go around interviewing for the case. She's like, "Oh, so I'm new to New York. Like, what's something I should do?" And it's just like, "Girl, not the time."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
it's funny because you're like, okay, she's so unaware of how weird she is that like she doesn't think it's weird to ask someone, did you have anything to do with this girl's death? Oh, and by the way, what's a Broadway show I should go see? Like,
She is the very definition of weird and off-putting.
and like I said, it works right now. It'll be interesting to see if it continues to work. I There were some times though where like some of her like clues that she came up with based on her like deductive reasoning, whatever, were a bit out there. Like there's a moment where she's like talking about spacing in messages,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, most young people only put one space after the period, but older people put two. And I'm like, okay, and how does that make this guy your main suspect? Like it's one little thing that a lot of people do. Like why are you okay, because at one point that was like her only indicator that he's potentially the killer, and I'm just like, that's a bit of a stretch. Like, but the one detective that's the one cop that is assigned to follow her around, the African American girl, she literally was just like, following her around, be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I totally get it. And I'm just like, okay, you're definitely one of those people that find her entertaining, and you like her, but even I'm scratching my head at this one. But it's it's fun. It's different. I watch enough investigative shows each week because I review the Law and Order shows. So like it's fun to get one that's not serious really at all. Like it's so unserious.
Yeah. And it's definitely in the vein of like The Good Wife and The Good Fight. Like it feels very sort of totally consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It was entertaining as someone who's watched all of The Good Wife. That conversation with like the police captain and the guy from Chicago, where he's like, "Yeah, we were gonna send you Carrie Agos," and it's like, "Oh, you would not have liked Carrie any more than like if you don't like Elsbeth, you definitely would have liked Carrie." Like that's such a funny thing to put in this episode. Carrie Agos played by Matt Zuckery from Gilmore Girls and The Resident. Yeah, they definitely would have liked Carrie. Like, he definitely would have been a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a funny mention. Even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Carrie Agos where we left him to be doing this, but okay. I hope we get to see Matt Zuckery on the show sometime, actually, because he was a good character.
I could see it potentially being a thing that, like, to try and, like, break up her life, like, you know what I mean? To, like, cause drama in her life. Bring him along, and she'd be, like, feeling like she has to compete. Because she does love the idea of doing this job. Like, she's very excited about it. So, like, I think to have him come in and be like, oh, well, they actually want me instead, I think that'd be entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing with the show. I am always down for whatever, shenanigans the Kings want to pull. So, like, I'm not sure if the show is good, but also the Kings have earned a lot of leeway in terms of like what they do with their shows. Parts of The Good Wife, notwithstanding. So let's move on to our next show, which is Avatar: The Last Airbender, which we're checking back in with from last week. Now I watched most of the season. I was on the 7th episode, and I was like, all right, this feels like enough. And I still have largely the same feelings that I had. It's mostly good. Here's the thing that I was thinking about. Is that like the show is kind of good. But it's a problem where animated Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the best, most perfect shows that has ever been made. And like Legend of Korra had the same problem of there's a difference between like Korra is a good show, but when you have a show that is perfect, one ends up looking lesser.
Right, you can't really replicate perfection.
Exactly. Even though, for the record, Legend of Korra is a show that I adore deeply.
I love it so much. Yeah. It's great. It's just not same
it's not.
exact level of Avatar great.
Yeah, it's just it can't be what The Last Airbender was, and nothing can.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a certain amount of The Last Airbender that was just like lightning in a bottle. Like it was such a wild swing, and it worked beautifully.
Yeah.
And so like to connect it back to like this live action version, like it's fine, it's good at points. Some of the pacing feels weird to me.
Mm-hmm. It does
And
feel a bit rushed at times.
yeah, well,
Mm-hmm.
it is interesting looking back at like the animated series and like what this live action version chose to do, and it's like interesting like the stories that it decided to pull for this live action
Mm-hmm.
version. It's like I can't even say that I really disagree because it's like you know
It's like I said
Northern Waters.
last week. It's like I said last week. I feel like it decided, okay, here are the broad strokes things that we want to talk about, and that's about it. We're not going to worry about the smaller stuff. And I'm like, but some of that smaller stuff is important. Like, you need to put it in.
Yeah, yes, definitely. But it's like Omashu, yeah, okay, I get that. Um, Northern Water Tribe, okay, I get that. Spirit World and Roku, and yeah, okay, I get that. But it's like the distillation of this season into like its bare components, and you're like, I guess that makes sense. But it does like to a certain extent, it does feel like something did get lost in translation a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Um, where it's like, yeah,
I was talking with one of my friends about it, and one of the things that like we were talking about was that, you know, Soka isn't as misogynistic in this. And I get they're trying not to be canceled, so to speak, for his like behavior, but like part of his character was growing out of that. Like you got rid of part of his character arc by making him less than he was on the animated show. Like part of the humor of making like the way you laughed at him was because he was so obnoxiously manly, and he's not in this show, and it's like off-putting.
yeah, and I think both him and Katara end up like not having a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also I think overall this season like does a weird thing where it constantly feels the need to separate the three of them.
Yeah.
Like almost every single episode feels the need to like divide them in some way or have like one doing one thing and one person doing another or something.
I think that plays into the creators, when they were interviewed and they were talking about how they're like, well, we need to make it a little more grown up and a little bit darker. And I'm like, okay, so you're gonna separate them all the time? Like, is that like what your plan is? Because like the point of the show and what made it so magical as an animated series was the bond between the three of them and how they convinced Aang that he could do it. He could be the Avatar. He could learn all these different, disciplines, and it wasn't horrible of him that he was, locked away for 100 years. Like because he was locked away for 100 years, he can help them now. And that magic is kind of lost because we're not letting them be a unit.
Yeah.
And so it's frustrating. I didn't
Yeah,
hate it, but it's
no,
frustrating.
no. But I like the core three of their performances.
Mhm.
I like the girl who plays Azula.
Oh my god, she's
She
so good.
she has like she has that minutes, but also, and this is something that like I think the animated show kind of brushed over a lot with like just in the way that they designed her character and the way she looked. That often we forgot that she's a child.
Yeah.
Which is something that this version doesn't shy away from. Because like the animated version makes her seem like an older teen girl, you know, like a girl who's almost like in her 20s or something, you know. Just with how she's looking, how she moves and it's animated. And here it's like, oh no, this is a young person. This is a young, traumatized person, you know.
Yeah.
So I think she does a really good job. Daniel Day Kim is great as Fire Lord Ozai.
He's so menacing.
He's so menacing and he is so hot. Just quite honestly too hot. And also I really liked Arden Cho as June.
Yes.
But I wish I could have had so much more of her because
she's an important character, and I feel like they glossed over her.
Yeah, and she looks so fucking cool.
She does. I kind of felt the same way. Like, I think I said this last week. I feel kind of the same way about Jet too. Like, Jet is such an integral part of who these characters are, you know, once they've met him. And this show, because the pacing seems so fast, we don't get enough time with him. And I think that's part of the problem, is that, like, you know, they're trying to condense a storyline from, you know, a show that had like probably twice as many episodes as this, and so like it's hard to break that down. And they do a decent job, but yeah, like I want to spend more time with these characters. I want to know more about them. I think I also think I said this last week, but like one of my favorite performances um is Prince Zuko. Like, he's one of my favorites. Like, he's so good, and you can start to see his walls being chipped away a little bit. You can start to see his compassion for other people coming through, despite the way he was raised in the Fire Nation. You know, just in the way that he lets Aang go multiple times, even though that is his one destiny, is to catch the Avatar. He keeps letting him go because he knows that it's still not going to be enough for his dad. And I think a part of him really just would rather just stay out on the, you know, on the boat in exile with his uncle. And I like that this show does explore that a little bit. But that the uncle's still fun, you know.
Yes. One other thing I wanted to mention was the appearances of Avatar Kyoshi, who I love, but is also like, it's a weird thing of the like weird adaptation choice of Aang seeing Kyoshi in the begin and like this early in the season, where there's that episode in the animated show where everyone was mad at Aang for something that Kyoshi did, and they asked Kyoshi about it, and she's like, "Yeah, I did it, and I'd do it again." And like, there's that moment of like shock of like, oh wow, which is a moment that you cannot get in the show because after meeting Kyoshi, you absolutely believe that she would do it.
Yep.
You absolutely believe that she would like do something devastating. Kyoshi, a character I love, but it's an absolute maniac.
Yeah.
So like, there's like that weird adaptation where it's like, oh, we get this one thing, but in return, like, you can't get that moment. You can't get that moment of shock, you know. But I did really like the actress who plays Kiyoshi, who really does just look like she is 7 feet tall and is not even like a goddess. Like she's just like an ethereal, like something like mythological about her, you know. So I really like the way that they showed her in the show. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all I really want to mention.
It'll be interesting to see the next 2 seasons. They're doing I'd say they get like a B- score.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair.
It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. That is always going to be the movie. But you know, nothing will, like you said, nothing will ever live up to the animated series because it was just so perfect in so many different ways, and it's hard to replicate that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one final thing I wanted to mention was we talked last week about Zhao, as played by Ken Leung here. And I saw the clip from Legend of Korra going around of them seeing Zhao in purgatory and still just being a loser, demanding to know where the Avatar is. And that is just what he will do for the rest of time.
Yeah. He's
Kid Leung still just giving a weird performance. Like
he doesn't know what he's in. It's fine.
He doesn't like he
doesn't know what he's performing.
He is from an entirely different show.
The thing is that like I still don't understand how he doesn't get behind what it is he's doing when he's in his full costume. Like, bro, there is nothing more you can be doing but imperialistic Japanese type things. Like what? Like what are you doing, sir?
Just the oddest performance. I don't even hate it. I'm just in constant awe of like, what was the idea here?
And props to the Cabbage Man.
Yeah, props to the Cabbage Man. Always the Cabbage Man. So let's move on to our next show, which is Star Wars: The Bad Batch, season 3, episode 6, Infiltration. There was. Hang on, I need to look up the other episode they had.
Oh, did it drop 2 episodes?
It dropped 2 episodes. So yeah. Season 6, Infiltration, and hang on.
Season 3, episode 6, Infiltration.
Yeah, season 3, episode 6, Infiltration, and episode 7, Extraction. Which these 2 episodes see the return of the weird sect of clones that have been turned into assassins by the Empire.
Okay.
And see them coming after Omega, and we see the return of Commander Rex and his little sect of clone rebels, along with Echo. Yeah, they're pretty fun back-to-back episodes, with the clone commando going after Omega, and also being backed up by a platoon of just regular clones. was one of it's one of the like the commander of like the clone troop was like definitely I think it's like a wolf, which is like a prominent clone from the Clone Wars we see return here, and have an interaction with Commander Rex. It's all just very good. There's a lot of good propulsive action getting us to the end here. It's kind of serving as a bridge here. It is interesting seeing Rex because we know from like Rebels that Rex pretty much just like gives us all up and goes off basically to fish. With some of his other clone brothers. So it is interesting here seeing like the before of that and what might lead to him like going off going off basically to sulk. But yeah, I really liked these pair of episodes. It'll be interesting to see more about like these clone assassins that have been kind of broken and reconditioned, and who some of them may have been. The one that is hunting them might be dead or may not be dead.
Right.
So whoever he may have been, yeah, the season struck along pretty well. I'm pretty in favor of it. But anyway,
I will try to get caught up this week.
Yeah, it's good fun. I think they are dropping 2 a week now, though.
Yeah, it is good fun, and so I'm sure it won't be hard. I just did not have time this week to get to it. I enjoy like even when watching the films, like I enjoyed the clones. Like I found them very interesting. It was an interesting concept, and so like when the animated Clone Wars series came out, like I fell in love with a few of them, and so like when Bad Batch came out, I was like absolutely watching this. So yeah. It's gonna be sad when this season ends because I'll be sad to not have them anymore, but
yeah. So let's move on to our next show, which is Ghosts, Season 3, Episode 5, The Silent Partner.
The not so silent partner.
Yeah.
Can I just say that my favorite thing that we learned in this episode is that Higgintoot's parents chose Higgintoot after they wanted to get away from Higginbottom because they had some debts they were trying to escape. And I'm like, so they chose Higgintoot? And like, that is the sentiment that the rest of the ghosts have, and I agree with it. Like, what?
Well, like, who is Higgintoot gonna fool? Just like these colonial people being like,
we just changed the second half.
Yeah. Well, it's like these colonial people going like, all right, we need to find these Higginbottom people, but they've disappeared.
But look, there's this random new family called Higgintoot.
Higgintoot, that's probably not related.
To be fair, they were probably dumb as rocks back then, so it probably did run by them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sounds legit." But also, like, it's just this show is just so funny. Like, just everything about this show is so funny, and like, I love Isaac. Isaac is one of my favorites. And so like to get more backstory on him is just so funny, and his ideas for the restaurant, I can't. He's like, we should get whale fat lamp. and we should put sawdust on the floor for people that end up peeing. It's just like, sir, you are from a way long time ago. That shit don't happen anymore.
Both of those, I'm pretty sure, are definitely illegal.
Absolutely.
Sawdust on the floor, I'm unsure of. It sounds like it should be illegal.
Sounds like
Whale
it's a
fat.
fire hazard, so I'm pretty sure it's illegal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Whale blubber, that's 100% illegal.
100%. 100%.
Would not pass any inspection ever.
But I do like that, that he's trying. He finally reads the book and he goes, you know what? I'll make a table for for my silent partner and his friends. And I'm like, that's a great idea. And everyone else, all the rest of the ghosts are like, that is a terrible business idea. I'm like, not really. I mean, no one, they can sit there and other people can sit there too. Like,
yeah.
and then we have the situation of what's her name? The wife, the ex-wife, now being a ghost.
Yeah. Carol?
Carol, yes, Carol. I was like, Karen?
Okay.
Nope, that's not right. That's not the name. Carol. And Pete happened to be like, oh, well, yeah, I have a girlfriend. And he looks to Nancy and Alberta. And Alberta's like, fine, I'll do it. But, like, it ain't going to be this whole we fake date and fall in love thing. And I'm just like, girl, you love romance novels way too much. But that's my favorite trope. So, girl, yes.
Yeah.
But, like, and when he pulls the arrow out of his neck and she like suddenly feels all sexy about him, and then it goes back in and she's like, oh, never mind, what was that? Like, just the subtle humor of the writing of this show, like, it still blows me away. We're 3 seasons in and I'm still blown away.
It's so good. It's just like kind of carrying over from last episode, but it's just like, this is classic sitcom shit. Like, I'm all about it.
And then you've got Hetty and Sisyphus trying to get her to agree to hold the candy while they suck on it. Like, I can't. I'm just like, I love you guys weird. So much. They're all so weird. And it's still so comical that Sam can see them and he can't. Like, it's just like, I love that dynamic.
Yeah. Okay. I have to say, there was a moment where I thought that Trevor had invested in Bitcoin.
Yes.
Like, that moment where, like, the stock drops. I'm like, please tell me Trevor did not invest in Bitcoin.
I also love the joke that he's like, well, from Wharton. They're like, oh, are you from Wharton? I didn't know you went to Wharton. Like,
but I was thinking about this.
But also, they donated. They gave $10,000 to a ghost. Like, to be fair, the ghosts are very legitimate in being wary of their decision-making skills. Because also, like, why'd you give the 10,000 to the ghost? Like, you what? Like, logic, people, logic.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But you know what? If Trevor, I was thinking about this. If Trevor had still been alive, he definitely would have killed himself in 2008 from bad financial shenanigans.
Oh yeah, he would have committed suicide. He would have been like, "Nope, I have nothing left to live for."
Like he would have made some bad financial deals, and when the market crashed in 08, he would have tossed himself out of a building. Like, no doubt.
And if he didn't do that in 2008, he definitely would have been investing in Bitcoin currently and lost his shirt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. God, I hope they never tell Trevor about Bitcoin.
I sure hope not.
Sure hope not.
Oh man, but it'll be very interesting to see how the dynamic with Pete and Carol continues to evolve. Because he's definitely still got some, hurt feelings going on in that little brain,
Yeah.
But it's interesting to have a new ghost because that hasn't happened in a while.
It's true. I am wondering what the end game of that is, though.
Yeah. Because right now she doesn't really add much. She's kind of just figuring herself out and trying to make alliances, it seems, but also she's kind of just in it for herself. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
I want to see Alberta and Pete date. Do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Alberta, you know you love him.
Yeah. All right.
We saw you clutching your pearls. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. I want to skip Abbott, Masters of the Air, and Feud, and just go straight to the wild cards. We're running late.
Yeah, we are running late. Abbott also had 2 episodes this week, so
yeah, I'm not doing that. So we're just we're gonna talk about Abbott next week.
Yeah, we can deep dive Abbott next week.
Yeah.
Also, give you more time to watch more Masters of the Air, so we can discuss.
Sure.
Feud, we can kind of let's just say one thing about. I'm gonna say one thing about Feud, and then we could just never talk about Feud again. Thank God Truman Capote finally died. All I'm gonna say. The final episode was a little strange, and I'm not sure I like this season as a whole. So there we go. That's all we need to say. Never need to bring it up again.
Okay.
He died. The end.
Yeah. Let's close out our week with our last show, Wild Cards, Season 1, Episode 9, Inside Con Man. I don't know about you, but I clocked pregnant lady almost immediately.
At first, I thought maybe it was the girl with the hoodie.
Yeah.
But then, like, after a few minutes after that, like, we were, they were talking a bit more with the pregnant girl, and I was just like, I don't know, that seems a bit weird that she'd randomly have an affair with the bank teller guy. Like, what? And then you're like, there's something more to that. Like, and so, like, I wasn't 100% sure what that something more was, but I was like, she's got to be connected to those robbers. Like, there's no, doubt about it. So, like, by the end, I was just like, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
I did not clock the fake pregnancy part, but I did clock that she was definitely in on things.
Yeah, I figured it was probably a fake pregnancy. Like, the thing that, like, set my alarm bells off was that when she said that she was 8 months pregnant. And it's like, you're telling this guy when you're 8 months pregnant?
I mean, it could happen.
I guess, but it's like that feels like at that point, I feel like most people either would have told them like when they're like 4 or 5 months pregnant, or after the baby's born. You know,
Maybe.
uh, like 8 months feels like really late.
I don't know.
It either feels like too late or too early. You know.
Maybe I've just watched too many Hallmark dramas, but like I could totally see a girl waiting till she's about ready to pop the kid out to be like, "Oh, by the way, I'm
Right.
having your baby." I don't know. Like I didn't, like I said, didn't seem suspicious to me. Um, but I also am really notoriously bad at clocking things. Karen makes fun of me for it all the time. Like we'll be sitting there watching like documentaries about a killer or a murder of some kind, and she'll 5 minutes in be like, "This person did it for this reason," and we get to the end, and she's exactly correct. And I'm like, "How did you clock that?" Like, she goes, "You are so observantly unobservant." Like she goes, "You observe things, but they're not vital to what you need to be observing." And I'm like, "You're valid. You're completely
Yeah.
valid on that." So like
Yeah.
I see things, I just don't see enough to like get the whole picture ahead of time. Which makes shows a little more fun for me, you know. I'm like, "Okay, I didn't 100% see that coming."
Right.
But yeah,
Well,
no, I definitely was aware that she was in on the heist pretty early on.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it definitely cinched it when she came back and it's like, oh, these guys are really scary. And it's like, okay.
That and the whole like and the whole thing that Sam clocked with the milk. Like you picked a weird milk, bro. Like what? And he
Yeah.
didn't flinch, so like it was obviously his coffee order, so it's like you know him a little too well.
Yeah. 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 Uh, I do think the thing that's remarkable is that like it never once occurred to me that Max might be in on it.
Max, yeah, I
Um,
said Sam, I meant Max.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's especially if we're doing like a white collar kind of show.
Yeah, she could have easily been in on it.
Yeah, I should be wondering if Max was in on it, and the fact that I don't is actually kind of I'm actually starting to think might be a fault of the show. Like she should be a little more like nefarious, you know?
It's to be to be
Not
honest,
nefarious, but like dubious, you know?
at the very start of the episode, I kind of thought maybe she was up to something, but very quickly I was like, no, she's not up to something. She's just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. But you know, in the very beginning, like the way she's clocking people in the bank, I'm like, okay, she's up to something. Like there's something going on, like with what
Mm-hmm.
she's doing at the bank today. But and so when the heist starts, I'm like, oh, maybe she's involved in this. But then it's very evident very quickly that like she doesn't know these guys, she doesn't know what's going on, you know, whatever. But
Yeah.
maybe I'm just weird that I did think maybe she was up to something. It wasn't as long as it should have been. Like we should have been thinking she was up to something for a little bit longer. But I did, you know, for the first few minutes.
Right. Well, like when the other cops are like, "Is it possible that Max is in on it?" I was like, "Oh right, I should be thinking that Max is in on
Yeah.
it because this should be that kind of show."
Yep.
Um, but yeah, for some reason, like the show has not trained us to think that like Max might be double crossing.
Yep.
Um, which again, I think might be a bug and not a feature. um, But yeah, overall, it's a pretty fun penultimate episode.
Yeah, it continues to be a good show. Like, I'm still thoroughly enjoying myself. I like their dynamic. Um, I appreciate that, it seems like they're gonna get ahead, and then the captain knocks them down, saying, "You guys didn't follow any sort of protocol that you were supposed to be following. Therefore, yes, you stopped this bad thing from happening, but I cannot reward you for that."
Right, right. Well, part of that is the show needs to continue maintaining the status quo.
Yeah.
The show has it's a TV thing of like the show has to figure out how to keep these same people doing the same thing.
Yep.
Because we cannot have them like not, I was glad they didn't kiss in this episode because that feels too early.
Yeah, it does.
I need a little more. Need a little more build.
Absolutely.
Burns got to go a little longer.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not one of those slow burns that last like 2 seconds. I hate when this is me getting back to fan fiction. I hate when fanfic writers are like slow burn, and then like chapter 2 of like 12 chapters that are like already together. I'm like, that's not a slow burn. You need to take that tag off of your fic. Thank you. No, this one's doing it the right way. They're building that tension. They're making it seem like it could happen, and then it doesn't yet. So like that's great.
Yeah. But they continue to have great chemistry.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, so good. Yeah, and then we see Max's husband at the end of the episode. Which like the show's hinted that Max has had someone that she had a falling out with.
Mm-hmm.
That was like potentially romantic, but I think this is the first time that like it's really brought up that she was fully married, right?
She is full on still married.
Full on still married, not ex-husband, husband.
Yeah, I'm her husband, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Great development.
Yes. Yep. Yep. He does kind of look like what I imagine who Max would be married to. Like
Mm-hmm.
that fits.
Yep.
that seems right. But yeah, next week is the season finale, so looking forward to whatever that will provide. Hopefully it goes better than White Collar's first season finale where they killed Alexander and Dario.
Yeah.
If that's gonna be our comparison point, which usually is.
We keep going back to that, so yes, it will be.
I mean,
it's the best way. It's the best show to do a reference point with. Like, it's the closest thing to what this is.
I do think it is what Wild Cards wants to be.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So that's our show for the week. Stay tuned for what we will be talking about next week. Until then, Madge, where can we follow you online?
Well, I was informed today that it is my 15-year anniversary on X/Twitter, so you can find me over there at Dorothy NYC89. Been doing that way too long. I should probably get off that website. And you can catch me at On Tumblr at madsworld15, and yeah, that sounds about right.
Nice. And you can follow me on Twitter at @DrewKoenig, and you can follow me on Blue Sky at Drew Koenig. Also, find me on Serialized, where I am logging my week TV of the week. And you can follow the podcast on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Not Another TV Podcast. If TikTok will even still exist.
Yeah.
And you can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple and YouTube, whatever other podcasting service you're using. And you can find our full directory at libsyn.com/Not Another TV Podcast. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on whatever thing you are currently using. Every little bit helps. You can email us at notanothertvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions, goat submissions, show recommendations that you have. Until next week, please remember, don't go in the ocean. None of your business. Goodbye.